So, the easiest way to start understanding this map is just to notice the fact that all children have problems. Every single one of us as a child had difficulties, and we had to figure out ways to deal with those. There was stuff that was upsetting, that was frightening, that was frustrating, that was scary, that was sad, that was just overwhelming. You know, somebody just slams a door and you can see a baby just shock, right? Stuff happens in life. The body gets upset. What then can you do as a child to try to feel safer in those moments when you suddenly don't feel safe? Each of us does what we can. We apply the abilities we have. If we see somebody else around us, mom, dad, older brother and sister, anybody, using a certain strategy to feel safer, we'll copy it. Most of what we learn as kids is from copying stuff, right? Even if we don't see something, we might figure it out. But we'll try anything we can figure out to feel safer, and what works, we will continue doing. What doesn't work for us, we'll drop. Now, in order to make one of these safety strategies work for you, you have to have the native talents required for it. Not everybody can successfully pull off each of these 5 strategies. So as kids, you're faced with a situation. You have a certain family, a certain culture, a certain religion, a certain whole environment you live in. Your parents are a certain way, older siblings are a certain way, younger ones are a certain way. There's a set of problems you've got to deal with all the time. You've got to rely on your own talents, any kind of strategies you can come up with in order to try to feel safer in those moments when you feel distress. Is this clear so far? Everybody with me? Okay. The problem is, as infants, we don't have many options. If you're 6 months old, you cannot fight back. You can't jump up and run away. You can't tell them to stop it. Right? You don't even have much yet in the way of psychological defenses. So what have you got? All you've got basically is the ability to shift how you move energy through your body and where you put your attention. Now, the classic principle of energy and awareness is energy follows attention. Where you put your attention, your energy goes. If you're a month old or 6 months old or even a year and a half old, if you're still in the womb, if something is happening that is shocking your system, upsetting you, one of the few tools you have to do something about it is to move your awareness, to move your attention, to shift the flow of energy through your body so that it doesn't feel so bad. But you don't have very many choices. I've got some illustrations for you of possibilities. I'll tell you what. Send these opposite ways so everybody gets one. Basically, there are only 5 things you can do with your awareness. You can move it away from your body and away from the other person who's upsetting you. You can send it toward the person. You can pull it in and send it down in your body, down into the ground, even hide there. You can pull it up in your body and send it out the front or out around you. You can constrict the flow through your body. Those are pretty much the only 5 choices you've got. And as far as I'm aware, those 5 choices are what create these 5 patterns. So you're looking at those more or less in order. Top left, the energy is going away from the person. Top right, the person's energy is going toward another person standing next to him, a kind of neutral figure. Did everybody get one of those? Okay. Is there one left over? You're giving me yours?
Share.
Okay. I know this pretty well, but what the hell? The bottom left, the person's pulling their energy in and sending it down. The middle, bottom, energy coming up in the body, going out towards other people. And then the last one, bottom right, you'll notice the stream of energy coming up through the legs is broader, and then it starts to narrow in the torso. The idea here is the person's body sets up a series of ring constrictions, ring segments, and it's basically a way of kind of stifling the current of life energy as it passes through the body, which will dampen the vividness of your experience. If it hurts, but you can turn down the volume, it hurts less. Right? If it hurts, but you can abandon ship, first one, it hurts less. You're not even there. They're hurting my body, but I'm not there. Second one, it hurts, but I want you to fix it for me. This is the thing that an infant does, a nursing child. You know, appeal for help, cry out for help, reach for help. You've seen little kids automatically reach. That's what the person is doing energetically. Pulling in and down is a way of numbing. It's a way of hiding in a very real way. Pulling up and going out is pulling up more energy to actually fight against the thing that's hurting you. And the constricting tends to make rigidity in the body because you have to tighten all of those muscles. And your whole body gets rigid, your thinking gets rigid, your mind, your beliefs, your emotions get rigid, you get kind of black and white. And you are able to perform correctly. We have some smiles of recognition. No one we know, but I've heard it said. Some of us do this. So let me go over these just in a little more, flesh this out a little bit. So the first one, this was Alexander Lowen and Pirakos, Barbara Brennan in their writings called this the schizoid pattern. I've renamed it to the leaving pattern because the person's strategy for safety is to leave. When things get difficult, the person will leave their body or leave the room. Leave the situation. Get away from the thing that's troubling, that's upsetting. The second one, originally called oral pattern, because it mimics what happens in the oral stage of development, the time when you're nursing. That's a Freudian term. This started, Wilhelm Reich started this. He was a student of Freud. He used Freudian terminology, and that's how it got so pathological and confusing. With oral pattern, the person is looking to connect with someone else and get them to solve it. So it's, I have a problem, it hurts, I can't stop it, you do it for me. Anybody resonate with that? Yes. Anybody recognize this? Yeah. On the first one, we have hands of people who recognize, I'm getting out of here. Right? If it gets difficult, I am out of here, baby. And also known frequently as the highly sensitive person. That whole book, that's about people who do the leaving pattern. the person has not developed a strong energetic boundary, so the incoming stimuli is too much. There's a whole number of skills that each of us needs to learn energetically in order to become a healthy adult, and each of these patterns includes not having mastered certain skills. So there's more about that actually in my book than I have time to go into tonight. So first one, leaving pattern, energy away. Second one, merging pattern, energy towards the other. Go towards them and merge with them and get them to figure it out. I can't fix it, you fix it for me. Third one, enduring pattern, that's pulling the energy in and going down. This usually happens in the child who was losing the fights with mom and dad or somebody. If you're a kid who, like all kids, wants to be yourself, wants to assert your own will, wants to express yourself and do it your way, and mom and dad or somebody can't tolerate you being different, and they crush you every time you try to be separate, every time you try to do it your way, you'll fight back for a while, and then you'll gradually realize, I can't win. I'm too small, they're too big, and they are relentless. They will punish me, humiliate me, hurt me until I give in. What can you do? The only thing left is to pull your energy in and send it down. It's an act of your own will to stop your self-expression. You pull the energy in, you send it down into the ground and bury it there so that you don't have energy moving through your system anymore, or as little as possible, so it doesn't come up and actually do something. No self-expression, no actions. Often called the strong silent type. How are you? Fine. What'd you do today? Nothing. Anybody recognize this? Most of us do 2 of these, some 3. The question is always, what do you do when in distress? Not, do you exhibit any of these characteristics? So this third one, enduring pattern, hunkers down, waits for the storm to blow over. The motto is, you cannot make me. You can't move me. I am a rock. I am immovable. Screw you. But passively. No active resistance, because then we'd have a fight and I'd get beaten up again. I will just accidentally not do what you wanted. It's the only strategy you got left if you're overpowered. Right? Are we having fun yet? Okay, opposite to that, we have not the child who lost all the fights, but the child who won all the fights, because this child learned to bring energy up in the body, out the front, and aim it at people and just blast them into submission. Now to do this, you've got to have a big flow of energy. If you don't have a big flow of energy, you bring up a little bit, you blast them, and they go, come on. Right? Doesn't work. But if you can pull up enough energy when you blast them, you put them into overwhelm, you confuse them, you disorient the other person, and they will submit to you. One of my clients was a mother whose husband did this pattern, and she noticed that her 3-year-old son was also doing it. She said he sat there on his tricycle. He's 3 years old, right? He's on his tricycle. He looks up at her and he says, I'm bigger than you. I thought, boy, that's clear, isn't it? He's this tall, she's that tall, and he's saying, I'm bigger than you. He wants to be. He sees the advantages of being able to overpower other people. We know where he's headed. We know what, at least one of his safety strategies is. So I was able to help her, to coach her into, first of all, recognizing this, not shaming him for it, but giving him container, because what he needs is a larger, loving container. It's devastating to a child to realize, actually, I'm bigger than my parents, and they can't even contain me. Now I'm all alone. That's scary. You're 8 years old, you're 10, you're 12, you're 15, and you realize, I'm bigger than my parents. These people are clueless. What are you going to do now? You know, there's that feeling of, okay, I have to handle it all by myself now. That's no fun. That doesn't show on the outside, of course, because that would make you look weak, and you can't do that. How many people resonate with this one? Okay, we got some. And fifth, oldest pattern to form, constricted inside so you don't feel as much. It isn't the same kind of a wound that you get with the other ones. It's more that the parents were not able to pay attention to the child's heart and instead put their focus on the child's surface, on the child's performance. And the child learned to disregard their own inside, their own heart, their own essence. And to instead focus on, are my shoes shined? Is my hair combed? Do I have good manners? Am I using the correct fork and knife? Do I have the right grammar? Am I getting good grades in school? Am I winning the spelling bee? Am I winning the swimming meet? How am I performing? So instead of being yourself, you start to perform yourself. Mitt Romney was a poster child for this, right? Amazingly successful person in classical terms. Long, stable marriage, very financially successful in the business world, good-looking, relatively, able speaker, except he can't connect with anybody because his heart is offline. And he doesn't know it. These are people who dedicated ourselves to being the good boy, the good girl, according to mom and dad's standards. Now, mom and dad, one set of parents could have a very different set of standards and rules than another. So there can be many forms of this. But what's common is performing according to the outside rules. Not referencing inside to who am I, what do I want, but referencing the rules outside. Anybody identify with this? Okay. So there are three kinds of referencing we've been over. This last one is referencing the rules, right? Another one is referencing yourself. What do I want? What am I feeling inside? What's going on with me? A third is referencing the other person. What's going on with them? What are they feeling? What are they needing? How can I help them? These are all useful skills, but if you do it compulsively, that's going to be a problem. And if you're only able to do one, the missing ones will start to show up. Okay, let me see for a second where I am here. Okay, so let me emphasize again, first of all, that these strategies are all designed to help you feel safer. That is the main point. In my 30 years as a psychotherapist, one thing that I have come to believe is that fundamentally it's all about safety. That almost everything we do starts from, how do I feel safer? And then we have many different solutions to that. But that feeling safer is the main event. And that paying attention to that is what will change the world. One of the leading trauma experts, a guy named Stephen Porges, P-O-R-G-E-S, I think, said something, a little quote from him that I love, which is, if you want to change the world, start helping people feel safer. Because almost everything we do that's not helpful, generally, starts from feeling scared. Try to protect ourselves in some way. So let me also reiterate, these 5 patterns are not who you are. They're what you do to try to feel safer. Who you are is your essence. It's your presence, which is not happening on the level of personality or ego structure. That's deeper. If you engage in some kind of, excuse me a second. If you engage in some kind of spiritual practice, meditative practice, that gives you a direct experience of your own presence, that's the thing that you really are. These patterns are layered on top of that as attempts to protect yourself. Some maps of personality, specifically the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram, will lean into, not completely, but mostly lean into the idea of you are a so-and-so type. This is different. I repeat that because I want to discourage everybody from going around saying, I'm a, using the old terminology, people would say, I'm a psychopath, or I'm masochist, which was the term for enduring pattern, or I'm an enduring person, or I'm a leaving person. I want to suggest keeping in mind that this is what you do when you feel scared, when you feel overwhelmed with too much stimulus and you can't process it. Remembering that will make a big difference in terms of having compassion for yourself and compassion for other people when you see them go into pattern. It doesn't mean they're just being themselves and what can we do? It means they're scared. It means they're overwhelmed. It means they need help. So you can start thinking, what can I do to help them feel safer? That can be really, really helpful, really useful to the other person. People who go into different patterns, a person in a particular pattern will need particular things to feel safer. It's not the same for all 5 patterns. So we get into the problem of what makes one person who does one pattern feel safer is not necessarily the same thing that makes another person feel safe. So just doing for them what you want them to do for you doesn't always work. In fact, in couples counseling, the usual setup, the reason the couple arrives in my office is that, supposing it's a male-female couple, just for simplicity of speech, what he does when he's scared, what he does to feel safer makes her feel scared. What she does when she's scared to feel safer makes him feel scared. So it doesn't really matter who starts it. One of them goes into pattern, starts doing the thing that makes them feel safer, and the other one gets scared and does theirs, but even more. And then the first one does it more, and the second one does it even more. Pretty soon you have a fight that lasts 15 years and they can't solve it and they don't know why. Right? Now I'm sure nobody here in this room has ever experienced anything like this. Anybody dare raise your hand and say maybe you've had something like that? Yeah. Well, what part of my hope in writing this book is that you can read it and go, oh my God, that's what we do. How do we stop? I had, there was a couple who bought one of these early on, who went on a trip to France. They went on a vacation. And they emailed me from a cafe in France saying, we're reading this to each other and we can't believe what we're finding because we've been doing this stuff and we've done a lot of inner work and we've studied all these things and we really know what we're doing, except This is a whole different kind of thing here. And a lot of people have said to me, including some people here tonight, that like reading this is like reading your autobiography. Which I'm grateful to hear. I take that as quite a compliment. Now, I want you to know I didn't figure out everything in this book. What I did mostly was organize it and say it clearly. This is not solely my work. This is many years of work by many different people that I collected and then added my understandings to.